Good evening to all and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial is not an easy editorial. It is all about the pharma industry, the intellectual property rights, and also patenting, agreement between India and European organization. You got to listen very carefully. If you don't have the appropriate background, it's a bit difficult. But otherwise, also, if you listen attentively, you will be able to follow. This editorial, you come across the is it on? Hmm. In this editorial, you come across idioms we use regularly. Four idioms have been used, and three idioms we use regularly. Let us start the session with editorial vocabulary. The first word, contentious. Contentious means what? Adjective, part of speech adjective. Causing or likely to cause an argument. Or one word you have to remember, contentious issue means what? Controversial issue. Reliable, we have got many a time an easy word, part of speech adjective. Dependable. But here you have to recollect phrasal verbs like rely on, depend on, bank on, count on. You can count on me. You can bank on me. You can rely on me. You can depend on me. All these you have to recollect. Close to fruition. How do you pronounce this? Fruition. Close to fruition means idiom. An occasion when a plan or an idea begins to happen, exist, or be successful. You start something and slowly something begins to happen or begins to become successful. Then we say close to fruition. This we have got for the first time. Bone of contention, I'm sure our students, many, they know this. We use regularly. Two idioms. One is bone of contention. What is the other one? Apple of discord. They both mean the same. Cause of dispute. The subject of a disagreement or argument. But generally, I give the meaning cause of dispute. The cause of dispute is known as bone of contention or apple of discord. Fruition, achievement, accomplishment, you can think of that. Persist. Persist, part of speech, a verb. To continue to exist past the usual time. Here, past means at loggerheads. That's a different one. Good, Suresh. At loggerheads, not to disagree all the time. Here, past means a beyond. To continue to exist beyond the usual time. Persist. One meaning. Another meaning. Imagine someone faces a lot of problems. In spite of that, he or she continues working or trying. Then also you can say persist. He persisted. Underpin, we have got for the first time, part of speech, a verb. Support, justify, or form the basis for. Here, support, underpin something, support something. Generic, today's editorial is all about pharma industry, patenting, intellectual property rights, and not easy to comprehend. Generic drugs means what? Are long lasting, you can say. Part of speech adjective, relating to or shared by a whole group of similar things or similar industries or companies, not specific to any particular thing, not specific to any particular company. Anyone can manufacture a particular drug. Then we call that drug a generic drug. You can also say generic medicine. Affordability, part of speech noun, and ability to be afforded, but Inexpensiveness, something that is not very expensive, then you say, I can afford it, and you cannot spend the money, so much money. What do you say? I cannot afford it. But here's something important I would like to tell. First one, I cannot afford that car. What does it mean? Affordable, cheap, inexpensive. Very good, Anusha. And low cost. Yes, Adilakshmi. I cannot afford that car means I don't have so much money to buy that car. But look at the second one. I cannot afford to say that. Imagine I want to say something against the management. I know if I say something, I may lose my job. Then I will say, I cannot afford to say that. I can't afford to say that. I can't afford to go against the management. Means what? If I go against the management, I may lose my job. This is a different meaning altogether. It has nothing to do with the financial aspect. First one goes with financial aspect. I can't afford that bike, I can't afford that car. But second one, I can't afford to say that. I can't afford to go against the management. A different meaning altogether. Both meanings you have to know. Tussle goes with everyday English, part of speech noun. They had a tussle. There was a tussle. To fight with another person using your arms and body. That is a literal meaning. But tussle means a fight. Here, tussle between Indian companies and European companies. Don't take literally. Patenting, an important word in this context, part of speech verb, to get the official legal right to make or sell an invention. Imagine you have invented something or you have created a drug and you patent it immediately. That means what? You have the official legal right to use that or to manufacture that or to sell that for some time, not forever. Then it is patenting. Monopoly. Mono means what? One. Monopoly, part of speech noun. Monopolistic, adjective. Good. A lot of students have been writing a lot of words in the comment box. Very good. An organization or group that has complete control of something. In the past, if you look at in the past, many industries, a particular product, a particular industry would have the lion's share or the major share, almost the entire market. Then we would use the word monopoly by that particular industry. But today, if you look at the market dynamics, it is not possible. Modern economy or modern market principles, monopoly is not possible, not allowed also. And today, anyone can bring out a product, anyone can sell, anyone can survive. Market dynamics are very fluid and open. Next word, reciprocal, an easy word, part of speech adjective, given, felt, or done in return. I give you something, you give me back something in return. That means you reciprocated. Yes, that's right. In vehicle, we have got for the first time an important word you have to remember. Persuade someone to do something by means of deception or flattery. You persuade someone to do something using not positive, negative methods. One, deception. Deception means what? Deceive. And the other, flattery. Flattery is an important word. What is the meaning of flattery? Part of speech adjective. False praise. Flattery means what? False praise. Deception or flattery, inveigle. Ethical, ethics we have got many a time, part of speech adjective, relating to moral principles, what is right, what is wrong, or the branch of knowledge dealing with these. Ethics, noun, ethical, adjective. Values, principles, morals, all these are related words. This I use regularly. Bone of contention, from scratch. You have to start something from scratch. Means what? From the very beginning, especially without making use of or relying on any previous work for assistance. From the beginning, you have to start. Imagine you want to learn English and you have to start with the letters. That means you have to start from scratch. Paradigm, you have to be careful with the pronunciation of this particular word. G is silent. Paradigm, part of speech adjective. A typical example or pattern of something, a pattern or model. Here I would like to give the word epitome. Epitome means what? A perfect example for something. Typical example, epitome. Exactly. Example, model, paragon. Very good. Lakshman. Paradigm, prototype, example, criterion. Okay. In a way. That's all about the editorial vocabulary. At the outset, I would like to caution you guys, morning experienced. Today's editorial is not easy to understand, not easy to comprehend. The reason being it is related to pharma industry, and you come across words like patenting, intellectual property rights, generic drugs, all technical. You got to listen, then easy to understand. But always remember, see what happens whenever we come across a tough editorial, the number comes down because they feel, oh, it's not my cup of tea. I cannot understand. In my opinion, it should be the other way. What is the reason? Easy one, anyone can understand. But if you try to learn or understand something difficult, you are raising your standards. You're raising your limits. I always tell students, don't limit your challenges, challenge your limits. A tough editorial, you should be enthusiastic to listen, learn. Why can't we understand this? Why not? That should be the attitude. Oh, this is not my cup of tea. Then you leave the session. You are not going to get anything out of that, and you're not raising your standards. Do remember. Let us start with the question, what is this editorial about? This editorial discusses the ongoing negotiations between India on the one hand and the European Free Trade Association EFTA for a free trade agreement between among, you have to recollect, amongst also. So discussions, negotiations between India and European Free Trade Association for what? For a free trade agreement with a particular focus on the contentious issue of intellectual property rights in the pharmaceutical industry. IPR, we say. This is an important topic. Many a time bank exams have given passages related to IPR, patenting, intellectual property rights, and also copyright. All these are very important. The tone of the editorial appears to be informative, analytical, and somewhat cautionary. Somewhat, perhaps, rather. Focus, foci, all these you have to recollect. Very good. A European, a union, a university. Who is this? Naidu Paidi. Wonderful. I appreciate. So the tone is informative, analytical, and to some extent cautionary. Let's see how it goes. Brave New World. You cannot make out what it means. On the India European Free Trade Association Agreement and IPR. Still, you cannot make out. What is the main idea of this editorial? India must invest in fundamental research to be able to develop reliable drugs. Again, there is a helping verb, must. It is used to express an obligation imposed by the speaker. In this context, the editorial. India must invest in something. What is it? Fundamental research. Why should India invest in fundamental research? To be able to develop reliable drugs. Reliable drugs, very important. If something goes wrong, the public health is at stake. Expectations are high. This is an important expression. Imagine you are preparing for competitive exams. Your parents may expect a lot from you. Then what do you say? The expectations are very high at home. That means they're expecting a lot. And here in this context, when someone expects something from you, generally we say, don't let down that person. Let down. Don't let down your parents. Don't let down your teachers. What does it mean? Don't disappoint them. We also say, live up to the expectations of your parents. Expectations are high. Live up to the expectations. That's also an important expression you have to remember. Expectations are high that a free trade agreement involving India and the European Free Trade Association EFTA is close to fruition. How do you pronounce this? Morning I thought fruition. No, fruition. E sound should be there. Close to fruition means what? About to become successful. On the verge of, thank you very much, Varaprasad. I appreciate that. On the verge of becoming successful. However, a bone of contention. This is a positive statement. About to become successful. However, contrasting word, something negative the writer wants to introduce. A bone of contention relates to intellectual property rights. Bone of contention, we can also say cause of dispute, we can also say appeal of discord. However, a bone of contention relates to intellectual property rights and has persisted, existed as an issue since 2008. This issue related to IPR, intellectual property rights, has existed. Which tense is that? Has a persisted. Present perfect tense. Because since how long? Since 2008. IPR is the main problem. Switzerland and Norway. Switzerland, known for snow-capped mountains. That's the reason why, for a lot of tourists, the destination, the most sought after destination or tourist place, Switzerland, because you come across snow capped mountains. Snow capped mountains, whenever you talk about mountain range, you have to use a definite article the Alps, the Himalayas, the Andes. This is an important rule you have to recollect. Where do you come across the Alps? Switzerland. Norway. Norway is a Scandinavian country. Countries like Sweden, Norway, Finland, they are known as Scandinavian countries. Switzerland and Norway, which are prominent members, important members of EFTA, host several of the pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies that are responsible for several of the drugs and therapeutics that underpin support healthcare globally from here to here. Doesn't matter, easy to comprehend. What does it say? When you look at healthcare globally, the most important pharmaceutical and therapeutics are based, the companies are based in two countries. What are the two countries? One is Switzerland, the other one, Norway. And these two countries are prominent members of EFTA. They host, means they have. In this context, what does it mean? They have several of the pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. 80s it started biotechnology, information technology, biotechnology, 1980s, and IT took off. Biotechnology slowly taking off, still hasn't taken off in the real sense. Pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies that are responsible for several of the drugs and therapeutics that underpin support public health across the world or healthcare globally. The nature of the pharma industry. Now it talks about the nature of the pharma industry. To provide the background, usually what happens here we are talking about a drug. A particular company has to come up with a particular drug related to a particular disease. It has to first spend time and money on R&D. Time, money, both are involved. Then imagine it comes up with a drug. Here, drug, R&D. Then finally it comes up with, it has a drug. Then what happens? The company can go for patenting. Once it goes for patenting for some years, other companies cannot manufacture that particular drug. It becomes an exclusive right. After 5 years or 6 years, other companies can manufacture their drug. Then we call that drug a generic drug. Then what is it called? Generic drug. So, drug to come up with a drug, research and development, and then the drug is there, patenting, then patenting, intellectual property rights, and after some time, not forever, a generic drug. Now it talks about the same thing. The nature of the pharma industry, and when it comes to R&D to discover a useful and effective drug, the company has to spend a lot of money. The nature of the pharma industry, what is it? It costs much to discover a useful, very important. Already our students have written Naidu, Anusha, Tripur Sundari, Venkateshwama, Divya, all these. A European city, a university, all these you have to recollect. Uniform, unique, a useful. Why? What is the reason? Here, imagine the word you, ya sound, that's a consonantal sound. Then we have to say a useful, effective drug, and relatively little to make generic copies of it. To discover a drug, it takes a lot of money and time. But to copy that, that means the generic copies of it, it doesn't take much time. It doesn't, one doesn't have to invest a lot of money. It costs much to discover a useful, effective drug, and relatively little, means almost nothing, to make generic copies of it. Based on that, what happens with a demand that is far disproportionate to affordability? Demand is there, affordability is not there, means that there's a constant tussle between the inventors and the generic drug companies. Imagine one company can manufacture a particular drug, and there's a lot of demand for that particular drug. Then many people cannot afford. That's a problematic situation. On the other hand, there is a particular drug, a lot of demand for that, and it becomes a generic drug, then people can afford. The price comes down drastically. This sentence talks about that. With a demand that is far disproportionate to affordability. Demand is there, but affordability is not there. Means what? Means that there is a constant tussle, fight between the inventors and the generic drug companies. They always fight. Inventor wants to hold it for some time because of the patenting, because of intellectual property rights. And the generic drug companies, they want to manufacture because the demand is there. In that process, the price comes down. Affordability is going to be there. Patenting. What does it mean? Exclusive monopoly for a fixed number of years to originators or inventors, and a reciprocal right by governments to issue directions for compulsory licensing, thereby selectively breaking such monopolies in the interest of public health, has brokered something. That we'll see later. Again, the sentence is from here to here. What does it mean? Patenting means what? An exclusive monopoly, exclusive right for the inventor for a fixed number of years, not forever, for a fixed number of years to originators or inventors, and a reciprocal right by governments. What is a reciprocal right by governments to issue directions for compulsory licensing? Then what happens if they do that, thereby selectively breaking such monopolies? Initially, patenting exclusive. After some time, the governments have the right to issue the licensing. Then the monopoly is broken. Breaking such monopolies in the interest of public health has brokered the peace and sustained the global pharma industry for decades. Because of that, the global pharma industry sustained the global pharma industry for decades. Otherwise, it would have become a problem. Forever, one company manufactures a drug that is not going to be practical. But new legal innovations, such as data exclusivity, editorial is about data exclusivity, continue to inveigle, persuade someone to do something by deception or what? Flattery. In this context, smart. But new legal innovations such as data exclusivity continue to inveigle themselves in free trade negotiations. So when it comes to free trade negotiations, something smart happens, some sort of deception. And here data, datum singular, data plural. But data can also be a collective noun, then it takes a singular verb. Under this provision, All the clinical trial data that concerns the safety and efficacy. Divya has come up with a lot of words, all these based on which one datum data. Please have a look. Also, Tripura Sundari. Please, all of you have a look at the comment box. Under this provision, all the clinical trial data that concerns the safety and efficacy. When we talk about medicine, we use the word efficacy, means efficiency, effectiveness. Very good, Adi Lakshmi. Efficacy of a drug generated by the originator firm becomes proprietary and out of bounds for a minimum period of 6 years. Another idiomatic expression, out of bounds, out of reach, for a minimum period of 6 years. That means what? You have to recollect trial, trail. Very good. Trial, trail. And out of bounds for a minimum period of 6 years. Permission to make a generic drug is possible if a country's regulator, every country has a regulator. When is it possible to produce generic drugs? If a country's regulator can rely on, depend on, bank on, count on supplied clinical trial data to approve a drug. Permission to make a generic is possible when, if a country's regulator can depend on supplied clinical trial data to approve a drug. For this, generic makers usually rely on the originator's published data. The originator or the inventor publishes data, and those who want to manufacture the generic drugs, they depend on those publications. The principle of data exclusivity is present among European countries as well as in agreements involving many developing countries. European countries, developed countries. It is there if you take European countries as well as developing countries. India is referred as a developing country, and we are striving hard to become a developed country. But here, why is this in with a star mark? Tell me. You should also recollect principle, principle. That's good. But answer my question as well as why is it important? When you combine two subjects using expressions like with, together with, along with, as well as, besides, in addition to, like, unlike, rather than, nothing but, all these, and not, all these, the verb agrees with the first subject. That you have to always remember. They have given in many competitive exams. Wonderful. Our students have come up with all those things before I could complete. This is an important pattern. Tell me why. If you guys respond, I'll be very happy. Exam point of view, this is very important. Were it to take effect in India, here it has been used what? Effect noun and verb, but used as a noun. Take effect. But why is this pattern important? Here, the actual sentence, if it were to take effect in India, like imagining, imagination. And in this pattern, whatever the subject, we use the primary auxiliary be in the past plural form. If I were you, I would do something. We use were, we use would. But why is this important still? In this pattern, if you drop conditions, especially, if you drop the word if, then you have to use a clause in the interrogative form. If it were to take effect, affirmative. Here, if has been dropped, then the clause changes to interrogative form. Then what do we say? Were it to take effect in India? This is in the entire editorial. This one particular thing is very important from the exam point of view, and many students cannot handle under pressure. Were it to take effect in India, it could. If it were to take effect in India, it could significantly hinder, block India's drug industry. Entire industry will get affected, which is also a major exporter of affordable drugs. India exports affordable drugs, but if it were to take effect in India, it could means possibility, chances are less, significantly importantly hinder block India's drug industry, which is also a major exporter of affordable drugs. Indian officials, so what is the stand taken by Indian officials? Indian officials have rejected present perfect data exclusivity as a point of negotiations in the FTA, though leaked drafts of the agreement suggest that it is alive. The leaked documents say it is alive, though Indian officials have rejected. Leaked drafts of the agreement suggest it is alive. However, India's rise up the drug manufacturing chain in the last few decades means that it must invest in an ecosystem that can conduct main ideas being reiterated. It must invest in an ecosystem that can conduct ethical drug trials and make new molecules and therapeutics from scratch. What is India supposed to do? India must invest in an ecosystem that can conduct ethical drug trials. Ethical, ethics means values. Ethical drug trials and make new molecules and therapeutics from scratch, from the beginning. The paradigm that drug development will always be expensive and confined to the West need not be permanent. There's a particular model, pattern, thinking. What is it? This drug development will always be expensive, one idea, and will always be confined to the West. Confined means what? Restricted to the West. And that perception, that model, need not be permanent. But how can we change that model? As was seen in the development of several novel, new, innovative, creative technology approaches to developing vaccines in India during the COVID-19 pandemic. At the time of COVID-19 pandemic, India played a crucial role. Companies from Hyderabad and Pune supplied the vaccines. So we can break that pattern. But how? But as preparation, India must invest substantially, considerably more in fundamental research, main ideas being reiterated, to incubate the local drug industry into the future. India must invest. What is the what are the key words? In fundamental research to incubate the local drug industry into the future. That's all about this editorial. Not easy to understand. I don't know how many students are there. The graph hasn't come down. I'm glad many students have been there from the beginning till now. Let us go to comprehension based questions. First one, what is the primary bone of contention in the ongoing India European Free Trade Association agreement negotiations? Hatch, incubate, spawn, yes, yes, you can say, but those are biology terms. Incubation, incubator, spawn, all those different connotations altogether. Here it means something like you try to develop something. Initially, you protect, you provide the support, and eventually it develops into whatever it wants to develop. It has to develop into. What is the primary bone of contention? Tariff rates, data exclusivity in the pharmaceutical industry, agricultural subsidies, technology transfer. So, what is the answer? B is the answer. According to the editorial, what role has patenting and compulsory licensing played in the global pharmaceutical industry? Two things are there. One is patenting, exclusive. The other, compulsory licensing. What role have they played in global pharmaceutical industry? Hindered innovation, maintained a balance between inventors and generic drug companies, increased the drug prices, limited access to affordable drugs, maintained a balance between inventors on the one hand and generic drug companies on the other hand. Very good. Two also, B. What is the significance or importance of data exclusivity in the context of the pharmaceutical industry? What is the importance of that data exclusivity? It promotes transparency in drug development. It ensures generic drug companies have equal access to clinical trial data. It makes clinical trial data proprietary for a specific period. Ah, yes, surge, hike, spike, escalate. Anusha, right. Tell me what is the answer for question number three. Pandu says C. It makes clinical trial data proprietary for a specific period. Beyond that, they cannot have that exclusive proprietary. Good answer is the third option. How has India's drug industry been positioned in the global market according to the editorial? As a major importer of pharmaceuticals, as a minor player with limited exports, as a major exporter of affordable drugs, clearly mentioned in the passage, as a solely, editorial, as a solely research oriented industry. What is the answer? India is a major exporter of affordable drugs. People can buy, not expensive, affordable. What does the editorial suggest? India should invest in, suggest, advise, should, to ensure the growth of its drug industry in the future. They should do something. What is that? What is the suggestion from the editorial? Increase the tariffs on pharmaceutical imports? No. More reliance on Western drug development processes? No. Fundamental research and an ecosystem for ethical drug trials, clearly mentioned in the passage. Strict enforcement of data exclusivity regulations? No. So, what is the answer here? C is the answer. Good. Have a look at the words we got yesterday. 16 words. Write the part of speech, write the key word. Venkatesh Rama, have you cleared SBI clerk prelims? If you don't respond, I understand. You don't have to respond. But I'm rather curious because that time you were my student. All the five wonderful. Sahaja, good. And Durga Rao also. Strike down, phrasal verb. What does it mean? Ah, congratulations, good. I wish you all the best. Glad to know that. Your hard work never goes waste. Always remember, it's a matter of time, and there's no substitute for hard work. When it comes to success, only one thing is required. What is it? Hard work. Strike down, to make something null and void. Verdict, noun, judgment. Write the keyword. Huh. Anonymous. Anonymous call means what? Adjective. Ah, good, Anu. All the five correct. Anonymous means what? Unnamed, untitled, unidentified, Naidu, Paidi. Yes, very good. Undermine, part of speech, verb. Undermine someone or something. Usually it goes with a system. Anonymous caller, unknown number. Weaken, subversion. Very good, Naidu, again. To weaken someone or something slowly, gradually, and also destroy. But better word is weaken. Quid pro quo, part of speech, noun. What does it mean? Foreign expressions are important. Sometimes they give five questions, 5 marks. You got to be careful. Subvert, weaken, sabotage. Very good, Ganesh. And here the fifth one, agreement between two or more parties for mutual benefit or for exchange of goods and services. Yes, mutual benefit. Wonderful. Malaise, part of speech, noun. Society, to feel ill at the personal level, a feeling that you are not well or a feeling that you are ill. But society, there is a problem. Then after this, I'll be doing it, Pandu. Let us finish off this, then we'll go to a problem in the society. Manifestly, obviously, adverb. Evidently, obviously, something that goes without saying. See through eye. A restlessness, which one? Okay, sixth. Obviously, clearly, evidently. Arbitrary, whimsical, that's a good word, Tripur Sundari. Arbitrary, not based on reason, not based on rationality, based on emotions, based on whims, based on whims and fancies. All these you have to. Part of speech, adjective. Arbitrary decision, whimsical, good. Cap, based on the editorial, verb. Cap, you don't have to write, but based on the editorial used as a verb, what does it mean? Control or limit. Yes. Random, erratic, Adilakshmi. Random, erratic, capricious, whimsical. Capricious goes more with not stable. Nothing is more capricious than human mind. There's a saying in English, not stable. Cut down, limit, restrict, all these. Curb also means the same. But what is the difference? Curb means to restrict something unwanted. Willful also you can say, Divya. Curb, restrict or limit something unwanted. That is important. That is a difference. And cap goes more with expenditure, more with financial aspects. Curb goes with something unwanted. You restrict, restrain, refrain, restrain. 11 antecedents, ante, before. Based on the root prefix suffix, easy to guess. For which one? 10th one, curb. Embargo. What are the other words? Divya says ban, prohibit, embargo, regulate, control. Wonderful. Antecedents, ante, before. Have you answered 11th one? I don't see that. No, 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 no. Antecedents, that is different. Ancestors, different. Both are entirely different. Antecedent means something that happened before, earlier. No, why are you writing forefather? That goes with ancestors. What is the word for that? Ancestors. Means what? Forefathers. Expedite, speed up. Part of speech, noun, here verb. Expedite, speed up. Abridge, to make something brief. Abridged version. You present essence of something that is nothing but abridging. That is also a verb. Veil can be a verb, can be a noun. Two different meanings. One meaning, a woman covers her face, veil. But veil also means something that hides, hide, conceal, disguise, expedite, hurry, fasten, speed up. Deploy goes with soldiers, police, to position, deploy verb. Interim adjective, interim orders means temporary, for the time being, till we find a permanent solution. Someone wanted tips for mains. I would like to spend a few minutes on that. When it comes to any competitive exam, banks especially, prelims are easy. Prelims exam is easy. Mains is the main hurdle, quite obvious. That is the reason why sometimes from a particular institute, 10,000 may clear. But eventually, what is the number, final number of selections? 500. Final 500. Where is 10,000? Where is 500? That itself is a record. No one can beat that record. This is a record. So is this. That is positive. Both are positive. But what I say, 10,000 cleared prelims. Why not at least 1,000? Depends on the approach. Depends on the how they look at it, how they try to deal with the mains. Generally, what happens, I will tell first. Generally, students, candidates across the country, I'm not talking about a particular institute, a particular location, south, north, no, across the country, many candidates, they have the prowess when it comes to prelims. Easy. They spend 1 year, they can clear. Not a big deal. But what is the main hurdle for many candidates? Mains is a main hurdle. Now we are talking about SBI clerks mains. But generally, if you take PO level, you have to deal with so many things. One, you have to deal with objective questions, multiple choice questions. You have to deal with descriptive English. Then you have the GD. Then you have the interview. So many stages are there. But fortunately, when it comes to IBPS or SBI clerks, only two steps. What are the two steps? Let me complete this. Today it is not possible. Perhaps on Monday I will do that. Prelims, mains, only two steps. Now, when it comes to English, how to go about? You have about when is the exam? I will tell you. Check the approach. It all depends on the approach. Mains, how many days? Let's say 10 days, not even 10 days, I suppose. Generally, I tell students, first I will tell generally, when you start your preparation, let's say your dream is to become a banker, bank exams, you have to allot yourself 1 year. I say 9 months to 1 year, but let us take 1 year. This 1 year, when it comes to English, grammar takes about 2 or 3 months. You can master. But reading comprehension skill, vocabulary, these two, this one say 2 months or 2 or 3 months, not more than that. And many students master grammar. But reading comprehension skill and vocabulary, they take, they go hand in hand, they're inseparable. 9 months to 12 months. On the higher side, 1 year, 12 months. And how do you become good at these two? You have to read every day for 60 minutes. Read what? The Hindu. This is a general strategy. Then what happens? Mains is all about reading comprehension skill and vocabulary, not about grammar. Grammar is useful when it comes to prelims, that too to some extent. But when it comes to mains, what matters? Your exposure to the language, your contextual awareness, your reading comprehension skill, your vocabulary, they matter a lot. And how do you become good at these two? Because they're inseparable, they're always together, they go hand in hand. You have to read every day. For how many months? 9 months to 1 year. Read what? The Hindu, headlines and one editorial. There's a general thing. Now let us come to now the present scenario. Let us assume how many days do you have? 10 days. What are you supposed to do? Because mains grammar is not that important, but still I say brush up, brush up the basics. If you should have at your fingertips the basics and also rules. You have to be thorough with rules, but don't spend too much time. Already prelims you must have learned grammar and all the rules are at your fingertips. Now you have to just go through once, only just 30 minutes every day, not more than that. The most important thing, reading comprehension skill and vocabulary. So what I suggest, you have been preparing for the last 1 or 2 years. Then you have to, these 10 days, you have to work on vocabulary. You have to revise all the words you know. You have to revise. When you revise again, what happens? 70% words you know, you remember. 30% words, they don't, you cannot recollect, they look like new ones. Revise, spend, while revising, spend more time on the 30%. This chunk you can answer, they are at your fingertips. I hope you guys are listening. You should spend your time on the 30% difficult words. And when you revise, when you want to remember these words, which are rather difficult, try to use mnemonics. Mnemonics means what? Memory techniques. Try to make association, try to create acronyms, abbreviations, but do something to remember the words. Now, at this stage, don't go for new words. Please don't do that. At this stage, consolidate. Don't go for new words. In any competitive exam, the most important thing is consolidation. You may read a lot, learn a lot, but before the exam you don't remember. That means you haven't consolidated. You have wasted 1 year. So always remember the deciding factor, not learning. Learning is the first step. Then you have to read, revise, and consolidate whatever you have learned. 1 year, you must have got a lot of words. All those words should be at your fingertips. That means you have to consolidate. How do you consolidate? Revision. And when you revise, you got to be smart. Try to focus on the roots, prefixes, suffixes. Some words you can remember that way, and your focus should be more on difficult words. Already you have learned, but they look like new ones. That means they may trouble you in the exam. Spend more time on the 30% difficult words. That is about vocabulary. This you can do every day. Allot some time and be sure about whatever words you have learned, and don't go for new words. Now, coming to reading comprehension skill. Mains is all about what? Reading comprehension skill. When it comes to reading comprehension skill, I have already given this acronym SLEEPS: science and technology, legal, education, economy, polity, socio-cultural problems. These 10 days, every day you allot some time, read one passage or one article. The topic should be important topics, and the topic should belong to SLEEPS, and also current topics in the limelight. What is in the limelight when it comes to space, technology? You have to spend time on those. What is in the limelight when it comes to legal aspects? Today we have capital punishment, it is in the limelight, or death penalty. Education, online classes, educational technology, economy, so many topics, and polity, uh, elections at the same time, or secularism, secular parties, socio-cultural, so many, environment. The most important one is what? Then you can think of problems of women, child labor, media, all these, human rights violation, all these. Every day allot some time. This is something very important. Allot 30 minutes to read one or two passages every day based on sleeps. Select a variety of context. Then allot another 30 minutes only for reading. You have to read every day. You're conditioning yourself. Every day, 10 days, you read one passage or two passages, 30 minutes, and 30 minutes you have to read one cloze test, one para jumble, one set of scrambled sentences. When you do this for 10 days, and all the topics, whatever you read, they have to cover all these 6 areas. Then what are you trying to do? You're exposing yourself to a variety of contexts, important areas, and you are training yourself. After 10 days, every day you do the same thing for 60 minutes. When you take the exam, already you have trained yourself, you have conditioned yourself. Then it becomes easy for you to read the passage. Easy to go through cloze test, parajumble, scrambled sentences. This is what you have to do. When you read two passages, again, you have to allot time 15 minutes, 15 minutes. 15 minutes for a new topic or important topic, and 15 minutes if possible. Otherwise, two new topics. One topic should be from previous year's papers. Read a passage from previous year's paper and ask yourself how much time it took and how you read, how many you could answer, why couldn't you answer some questions, what went wrong. Analyze every time, find out the gaps, and these 10 days you try to fill the gaps. Don't read casually. Be an aggressive reader, be an analytical reader, be a smart reader. These 10 days, your focus should be on reading, 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 and train yourself. Read and make sure you are able to do it properly, answer the questions properly. Then, this particular area, reading comprehension skill, you can handle comfortably. These 10 days, this is what I say: grammar, brush up the basics, be thorough with all the rules, don't spend too much time. And here, vocabulary, revise, make sure whatever words you have learnt, now you have at your fingertips. Then RC, 10 days you read every day, one passage, cloze test, parajumble, new models, new patterns. Then it becomes easy for you in the exam because you're training yourself. Who is this? 20 to 15. Your score depends on many candidates don't read the passage in the actual exam. According to one survey, 80% when it comes to the candidates, they don't read the passage while taking the actual exam. That's the reason why usually we have a single digit. What is the cutoff? Single digit. But don't do that. It's a blunder. You have to read the passages in the exam, and any passage, if you follow the tips, you can easily get 5 marks. How many marks? 5 marks. From the passage, 5 marks, it makes a lot of difference. Today, candidates are getting eliminated 0.25, 0.75 points only. That means they're deserving candidates, but very minute, narrow margin. That's what you have to remember. And here, 5 marks from one section makes a lot of difference. You should not take any chances over there. Now, that's what I wanted to say because you don't have a lot of time. If you have questions, you ask me, I will answer your questions. Improving your score depends on your background, your knowledge base. Background in the sense, your knowledge. To what extent you are familiar with the important topics. You are familiar with a variety of contexts. That will decide to how many questions you can answer. Have you guys got it? This is in a nutshell. And tomorrow, Monday, I will give the topics. I'm sure you guys know what are the topics that go with mains. And once you know the topics, you have to exam topics. I mean, topics means exam topics. You have to practice those models these 10 days. Imagine one of the topics, word swap. Another topic, word usage, exam topic, word usage. So what should you do? These 10 days, you have to work on questions based on word swap, questions based on word usage, so that you make yourself familiar with the exam topics. You have to learn, Pandu, idioms and phrases, not today, some other day I will tell, because that is SSC you're asking. Today it's all about SBI clerk mains. I wish you guys all the best. Follow the tips. Don't go for new information. Don't go for new words at this stage. Consolidate whatever you know. That will help in the exam. Starters, one more exam topic. Yes, starters, columns, connectors. Why is it you're not able to deal with starters? Many students tell me, sir, starters are a problem. Why is it a problem? First, you have to find out. It is a problem because you're not able to comprehend the given two sentences And when you try to club those with the given phrases, you don't feel comfortable, you don't know how to go about. But if you know the context, you can decide whether it is right or wrong. Yes. Thank you very much. I will see you guys on Monday. Good night to all of you. Have a nice weekend.